Hello, everybody. This is Caitlin on another week of Ask Ron with Mr. Ron LeGrand. How you doing today?
I'm Ron. Hey, how you like that shirt now? Huh? Look at that.
Very
It's
patriotic.
almost the 4th of July. That's Financial Freedom Day, in case you didn't know.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to start out today with our first question from Tyler of Utah.
Tyler of Utah. Okay, Tyler?
Okay. Why would a seller choose to do seller financing?
Okay. Well, that's a good question, Tyler, which means you've never been to one of my one-day seminars. Because, you know what, if you've never done any deals before, I can see why that would be rolling around in your head, and I really get it. But the answer is very simple. There's actually a list of them that long that I'll go over in my seminar. First one is because they don't need the cash. No seller is going to take monthly payments when they have to have the cash, which of course is the big deal killer. And that's why most of them do not want to take terms. But remember, I'm not dealing with most of them. I'm only dealing with a few of them per month. As with any business, you're going to be dealing with a small minority, not the big majority. So our system grabs the information from them. Our VAs get the information about the house and even ask them, would you consider taking a monthly payment? And if they say yes, that's a yes lead. But then my scripts allow you to call them back, and just a few questions confirms whether they're really interested or not. And also at the same time, they tell you what they'll take down, what their price is, and what their monthly payment would be, because you're asking them those questions. So your job is to sift through the many to get to the few, and don't think for a minute that they are people who won't take terms, because everywhere we go, every one-day seminar we do, every 4-day boot camp we do, so we have never ever failed to not stack up people who will take terms, getting them on the phone, asking them questions, and saying yes. And many of them are nothing down deals, Tyler. So even people with free and clear houses, they still have to sell a house. They get stress relief. They get an income stream for a long time to come, which many of them would rather have. They get debt relief if they have a debt. If I buy your house and I take over your debt, you immediately get debt relief. That means you get to stop making that payment. That's a huge reason right there why people will sell and take monthly payments. In that case, the monthly payment goes to the bank and not to the seller. So get immersed in the business. Don't make assumptions and don't talk yourself right out of something because you don't quite get it yet. You will if you get a little bit of training on the program.
Okay. He goes on to say that his father was a real estate investor, and he did this kind of something similar with family friends, and they ended up backing out later on. So he just wants to make sure his father's trying to talk him out of it. So he just wants to try to convince his dad that
Tyler,
it's all right.
Have no more conversations with your dad about this business until you get a check. Okay? We call it the shut up check. You hold that up, Dad, shut up. Go away, leave me alone. Your dad is normal. He had a bad experience. So from that bad experience, he's decided he don't want to do this thing, and that's a shame. It really is a shame, because he's given up a beautiful career. I mean, a beautiful career. And if you don't believe it, just go on YouTube. Look at all my videos. Look at my deal structuring videos. Look at all those things. But don't try to convince your dad, because he is not going to believe anything you tell him until you start producing results. By the way, your dad's no different than a lot of other people hanging around you. We call them dream stealers. They're going to do everything they can to keep you from succeeding, sometimes totally unintentionally. But if you listen to them, you're never going to get anywhere. If I were you, I would have no more conversations about this subject with your dad until you can prove that he is incorrect, and maybe you can help him get started up again. I have a lot of people come to my classes today that have been out for a lot of years, especially after '08. We lost a lot of them then. They're all coming back now because once you've been exposed to Papa, you are coming back.
Awesome. Okay, our next one is from Lawrence of Louisiana. When taking a property over into a land trust subject to, what do I need to do to do a purchase agreement, or are the terms spelled out in the trust agreement?
There are no terms in a trust agreement. A trust agreement is just a way to own the house. The trust agreement is not even created until the day you take title to the house. In fact, you can go home and create it later. The warranty deed to trustee is what transfers it from the seller to your trust. I think your question was, what do you put on your contract as the buyer? And honestly, it doesn't even matter, because you can change that name between the time you make a contract and the time you close anyway. So if you have an LLC, I'd put that up there as the buyer. And if you don't, and you're going to take title in a trust, well, you still should have an LLC, but if you don't, you can use a name as trustee. John Doe as trustee at the top of the contract, just not your name. And I prefer you don't use any name that is your last name. If you're going to do this business, you're going to wind up getting an LLC, but you don't need one to do your first deal. You know what? I don't even care if you buy it in your own name on your first deal. Just get it and get a check and quit worrying about that.
Okay, his next question was, does the purchase agreement get filed in public record?
No, never. Only the deed gets filed. The trust agreement nor the purchase and sale agreement gets filed on public record.
Okay, and also, how do I sign the agreement and trust? With my personal name or just with put the name of the LLC that is trustee?
Oh, well, okay, if you got an LLC, it would be that LLC, comma, as trustee at the top of the contract. And then when you go down to the signing part, it will say that same LLC as trustee, and then your name, comma, manager. ABC LLC as trustee, your name, comma, manager. All right?
Okay. Our next one's from Keith, and I did not get a location.
All right.
I recently came across a $2 million home for sale, but it will be appraised at least $2.6 million. They want a proof of funds letter to put the home under contract for me, and I don't have one. What should I do?
Nothing.
Okay.
Because you're out of your league, and it's a cash sale. And between you and me, I'm never going to pay $2 million for a $2.6 million house for cash. Because I don't believe the 2.6. Rarely does the number I get from the seller correct. It might have been what it was worth in 2005 or something. But B, even if it is worth 2.6, and I'm paying 2.2 million cash, that does not comply. That is way too much money, because you're at high risk when you pay cash, especially if it's somebody else's money. And then C, where are you going to get $2 million cash? I hope you've thought that out, because most private lenders, individuals, don't have $2 million laying around. And even if they do, I'd tell them not to lend at that high a loan-to-value ratio, because the bad part about a $2.6 million house is the buyers for those who are all cash are a lot less. And those are the properties right now that are taking the hits, and they're not moving very fast because the number of people who can afford them are a lot smaller. If I were you, I'd get back into terms business. And if you can't buy the house with terms, don't buy it. No terms, no deal. So it's very simple to ask the seller if they would consider terms. And if there's no way you can convince them, you ought to get my latest scripts. It's got a no script that explains to them why they might consider it. If you cannot get them converted, whack them. Move on, deal with people who want to deal with you, and quit trying to make these tough deals that you're never going to pull off. And don't get big dealitis. If you haven't done a $200,000 house, you really shouldn't be doing a $2 million house, because there's slim to none chances you're going to get it through. Sorry. I bet you wanted a better answer, huh?
Our next one's from LG Property Ventures. What can I record in public records to show I have the property under contract?
A memorandum of contract. It won't be hard to find. It's on my Gold Club site. Probably any title company or attorney can produce it for you. And all that is a notice that you have a contract, and how to contact you and when that contract ends.
Okay. Their next question was, I have a seller who is asking $1 million for a property/home with an estimated value of $1.5 million. I want to give her more reasons why she shouldn't take all cash at closing, so I don't have to give up most of the profit with my partner. Only reason I have so far is that 1, taxes on the cash at sales. Is there any other reasons that would benefit her as well as me?
I am going to have to assume this is her residence. If it is her residence, she has no tax consequences of cashing out, because she will not get taxed on that sale. If it is not her residence, she will be taxed on that sale. So selling on installment sales will spread those taxes out for however long you can get her to take the note. But that's really not the real question. The real question is she even willing to take a monthly payment first? Because if she isn't, everything else beyond that is a worthless conversation, as we just described earlier. So all you got to do is ask her, would you be interested in taking a monthly payment until I can pay you off? And then if she says no, you ought to use my no script, which describes the benefits of her doing it. And then if you cannot convert her, you're wasting your energy trying to make people do what they will not do. So I don't know how you intend to buy it, but I can tell you you're not buying that one for cash. And as I'll say it again, because somebody said it's worth 1.5, don't make it worth 1.5. And you should never, ever, ever trust an appraisal that was ordered by the seller. In fact, you should ignore it and forget that it exists. If you want to get an appraiser, you should order it, because I've never seen one that is correct. They're always too high. So first thing it comes to my mind, I don't believe it's worth 1.5 until somebody proves it to me. But even if it is, and she wants $1 million, and she wants it cash, not for me. Just go add up what the cost of borrowing $1 million is, if you can borrow it, if you can find somebody with that much money. And then I don't even know if it needs repairs or not, because you didn't tell me. But now let's quit assuming it's going to sell for 1.5. Okay, even if it's worth 1.5, and if it is worth 1.5, if it sells for 1.5, and you only pay $1 million, yeah, there's a bunch of money left over there, but that's a lot of ifs, and I don't trust anything until I got evidence of it. However, if you can put it under contract for $1 million with not much of a deposit, I don't know, maybe even as high as $5,000, but I'd offer $1,000 and get maybe 60 days to close on it. Now you've got plenty of time to get help or wholesale it to an investor who will handle it, or to owner occupants who will actually give you much more than well over $1 million. But you need time to pull all of that off, but you got to control the property first. I suggest you quit thinking about how to raise the money yourself. But if you can get her to take terms, great. But even then, you want at least 3 to 6 months before that first payment starts. And then I'm going to worry about how much down payment she's going to want on $1.5 million house. And I don't know whether you're capable of putting up a big down payment or not, but it's unlikely she's going to sell it for a minimal down payment. But you won't know that till you ask the questions on the script and get the answers from her, and then that will tell you where to go next. That's a long answer, wasn't it?
It was a good one, though. Okay, our next one is from Alpha of Alabama.
Alpha.
So, I am working on my first deal. I have a FSBO with a free and clear house. For my research, his home appraisal ranges from $320 to $340.
Okay.
He's asking for $395, but will accept $360. His rationale for this price is he added heating and a cooling sunroom, which he did not disclose to the city because he didn't want to pay the extra taxes and because he has a lot of custom furnishings. My online appraisals are based on the square footage without the sunroom. Based on the disparity in the asking price and appraisal, is this deal worth pursuing? If so, how does she proceed?
Why do you guys keep chasing all these dead-end deals? What if we started working with low-hanging fruit? Guy's asking $395. You tell me it's worth $340 tops. Sunroom is totally irrelevant, and I don't know what the city's got to do with it. You should never even be looking at what the city's tax assessed value is. And his excuse is he didn't report it to the city. What's that got to do with anything? Okay, has nothing to do with this deal. Assessed value has nothing to do with this deal. What it's really worth, however, does. And it sounds to me like it is nowhere near worth $395, and you got a totally unreasonable seller. Why don't we deal with the people who want to deal with us and give us the right answers to our questions and get a lot of leads coming in, which we will provide to you on your Gold Club site, and work the leads and work with the few that survive and get rid of the rest. How about that? Doesn't seem like a hard thing for me, but gosh, everybody wants to chase the golden turd. Don't chase them, because you're not going to get them. The minute the guy wants $395 and I go in there and I prove it's $340, we're done. I'm out of here. I ain't going to waste any more time with him.
Alrighty.
Boy, I'm getting brutal today, aren't I? Okay.
Our last one's from Ryan Garrison of Washington State.
Ryan?
Okay, I'm working on a sub-2 deal.
Subject to?
Subject to, yeah. At Business Management, Ron mentioned a method of acquiring the property without closing costs by having the seller put the property in a trust and then changing the beneficiary of the trust to my LLC. Is there a step-by-step guide, or are there some things Ron recommends I do?
And I will never produce one, because all you're really doing is screwing the state out of their transfer tax, and I am not going to advocate it, and I did not tell you to do it. I said some investors do it, and they certainly do, and they still do. But all they're doing is having the seller transferred into a trust with them as beneficiary, because that does not require transfer tax. But then under the table and behind the scenes, getting the seller assigned a beneficial interest to you, which does require transfer tax, but all you're doing is hiding it so that the state don't catch you. I'm not going to teach that, because I'm telling you, I don't do that to this very day. I'm not telling you I have never have done it, but I'm not going to do it. I'd rather you run a business that you don't put any skeletons in the closet that you don't have to go back and uncover later. I mean, in this case, the worst case is the state sends you a bill for the transfer tax, I guess, maybe even with some penalties. But that's not the way you should be thinking as a business owner. Why don't we just do it right, all the way through, even if it means we lose a deal now and then 20 years later we can get up and be glad that's the kind of business we run. Got it? I ain't doing your steps for you. Go find out from somebody else.
Awesome. Well, that was our last one for this week.
Man, that was a tough bunch of questions. You guys, next week I want them easier. I want them legal. And let's talk about deals that have a chance of succeeding and not these wild things that you've been sending me that are just a waste of your time. And look, don't be biting off more than you can chew. If you've never done a house deal, you're never going to do a multi-million-dollar deal. So let's start and work our way up. Okay, same with apartments. You don't start by buying a 200-unit apartment complex. You start by buying a quadruplex or a sixplex or a 10plex or whatever. You learn the business, and then you work your way up. You're not going to go from the gutter to the penthouse in one step. See you next week.